Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Helen. This is the Shrimpy McGee channel, and check it out. We've got actually some sunlight coming in, so we've got some weird play of shadows and light. Thanks so much for joining me. Today's video is actually about something I haven't done in ages, food. I love actually YouTubing about food, even though I do lots of other types of stuff on my channel. And today I'm specifically going to be talking about what I eat in a day, how that's working for me, intuitive eating, and how that's working for me as well. And also just to give everybody out there some encouragement if this is something you're thinking about doing. You know, as I film this, a new year is approaching, and that is typically where people want to go on all kinds of diets. But I'm here to tell you, you don't need to do that, okay? Let's walk through this together. Let's have a look at all the stuff I've been eating in a day. I am not a registered dietitian or a nutritionist. I am not saying this is the healthiest way to eat. I'm just saying, like, this is what I ate. I had two kind of different eating days, so I decided to film them both. I had one more typical one, which I'll show next, and then one kind of, not special, but one where I went out to eat, to give you an idea of how that goes down for me. So yeah, so let's get into that. And just before I start, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you do that. It lets me know that you want to see more of this content, and I will continue to make videos about intuitive eating. This is something that's really important to me. I have written an article about it, and we'll link to another video where I talk about that article. I was kind of really worried about getting a lot of negative attention and people saying kind of mean things about my parenting and stuff like that. Hasn't happened yet, I mean, but I haven't gone through the comments. People, not of the video, but of the actual article. So who knows, people could be like dragging me there and I don't know about it, and ignorance is bliss, okay? So it's Christmas time now, and so I had to go and do some Christmas shopping, and I took Killian with me, my son, so we went out to eat together. And so what we decided to do that day, and I sometimes do this if I think I'm going to be eating lunch out and I'm going to be having a really heavy lunch, is that I skip breakfast because I'm not terribly hungry, and I just figure, you know, I can push this out because I'm going to be eating earlier. I can definitely push this out, and I'll just wait till I'm actually really hungry, and I'm fine with that. This is not something I like to do every day, but I will do it if I'm going to a mall. And the upside of eating at a mall at like 11, like a food court kind of situation, is like there's relatively nobody there. So here we are in Toronto, and it is busy here. I think people sometimes have had this idea of Toronto being this like kind of quiet city. It's not. It's big. It's as big as Chicago. So if you try and picture like Chicago's downtown at lunchtime, you would think that's really busy. Well, it's the same here in downtown Toronto as well. So we hit the food court 11 o'clock. We hit my absolute favorite place and Killian's absolute favorite food court place, not because it's healthy, just because we just love the flavors here. And that is this place called Jimmy the Greek, which is a sort of hot table Greek food place. And the great thing about it is you just roll on up and they just dish it out super quick for you. I have like tasty lemony potatoes, tasty rice. I get the chicken souvlaki stick. I love getting the tzatziki. The red stuff on my plate is actually hot sauce. That's actually for Killian. I don't love the hot sauce. It's fine, but Killian's super into hot sauce. And what I do here to sort of split things up is, you know, Killian's still 11. He has a great appetite, but I don't want to necessarily buy two huge, like imagine if I got two of these huge plates. I don't want to do that necessarily for lunch. And sometimes for dinner, what I'll do is I'll just order a side of just the meat. So he gets just like this chicken, this roasted chicken leg that he loves. And so I put this chicken leg on a plate for him, and then I take off a lot of my rice. There's just too much rice. Like I'm not gonna eat all this rice. So I just give him basically all the rice. So he's having what he wants, which is basically just the chicken and some rice. And hot sauce. He loves hot sauce, and he will be very happy with this meal, and I am very happy with mine. Here's me eating, and this is I don't actually look this good. I have the iPhone 11, and I don't know what it's doing, but if you use the selfie cam, it has got some amazing like face smoothing stuff. Like my face does not normally look this good in bad food court lighting. So props to like iPhone for making a decent camera. I ate all of my meal. That might have given me some feelings before, and now it was like I was hungry, it was delicious. I just ate and ate, and I was fine. I went to like a 9 out of 10 on the hunger sort of scale, and so that's a big part of intuitive eating as well, right? You don't want to eat too little, then you'll just be hungry again in like 45 minutes, an hour, and you don't want to eat too much because then you'll feel sick. And I'm not saying you never have times when you eat too much, you definitely do, that's fine, no judgment. But if you just want to feel nice, you just try and get to the 8, or not, for me anyway, I like to get to the 8. I went to a 9 here, and that was fine. It was actually a good idea in the end because it actually took me right through until dinner somehow. That hardly ever happens. But it was just going down so well. I was so enjoying this meal, and I'm totally fine with that. Okay, so we got home, did the Christmas shopping I needed to do. I put the Roomba on. I love this Roomba because I hate sweeping the floor. And then around 5 o'clock rolled around, and that's when I start to make dinner typically, and we eat around 6. I did not have any hunger, but if I did have hunger, I definitely would have stopped for a snack. I just didn't feel anything. And so that's been a big part of my journey in intuitive eating, trying to just judge my own hunger signals. That's tough. I'm still struggling with that. It's been like closing in on a year, and I still eat when I'm not hungry, you know, and that's not bad. I'm not trying to demonize that, but then I feel overfull, and then I sometimes even have trouble going to sleep. So, you know, intuitive eating is not a simple thing. It can be complicated, and I'm definitely finding that to be true. If you're doing intuitive eating and you have any particular struggles, let me know in the comments what it is that is bugging you, and if you want to try it but you're hesitating, let me know why you're hesitating. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so I am making just a crisp salad with blueberries and some store-bought croutons here. And my favorite dressing is white balsamic vinegar from Trader Joe's, olive oil, and a little bit of honey over the top. Mix that up really well. It's like a beautiful, and add a bit of kosher salt and pepper. It's like beautiful, sweet, salty kind of dressing. I adore it. I had this scrap of a baguette, so I decided to just like kind of make an odds and ends kind of dinner. I'm sure we've all been there before. And so I made ham sandwiches out of it for everybody because I also had some ham that we needed to eat up. So that baguette had been in the freezer, so I just retoasted it. My secret for retoasting baguette is just like low and slow, not more than 10 minutes in the oven, but nice and low oven, slow. And it just is kind of crispy on the outside and not too, if you put it on too high, it just takes all the moisture out of it. And sometimes I wet it down a little bit, like I put a couple drops of water on it to help re-moisten the baguette if I'm gonna be putting it in the oven, because the freezer takes some of the moisture out of it. Okay, so I've got some cheese, some mustard, I had the salad. What else did I have? Oh, I also made some ramen. Made some ramen noodles just to make it a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I just wanted it to be a bit more bulked up, so I made some ramen noodles with some rapini in it and a little bit of egg. That's usually how I make my instant ramen noodles because they're kind of just pure carbs. Again, not trying to demonize any food, nothing wrong with pure carbs, but I know they'll just zip right through me. So I always add an egg toward the end of the cooking process, and I typically add some vegetables. I think most Asians do this. Like, I've never met an Asian that didn't put something in their ramen noodles. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just my family. That was that day's meal, and I had quite a bit. I had that little bit of a sandwich, like a mini sandwich, half of a plate of salad, ramen noodles with egg and vegetable in them, and I was done. Like, I was so nice and full. I felt great for the rest of the evening, and I just tried to follow my hunger cues. I did a really good job that day of just like thinking, okay, I'm not hungry. I could just eat a lot more stuff, but I just don't want it, so I'm not gonna. So thumbs up for me for actually listening to my stomach, to my body, and giving it what it needed. Not more, not less. That's hard to do. Super hard to do. Okay, so the next day, and so that was yesterday. That was a really not typical day for me. I don't usually eat at a food court for lunch, although I used to, you know, when I worked in an office, I used to eat at a food court for lunch almost all the time, and I loved it. I don't regret it for a minute. I enjoyed my time there with my colleagues so much. I could always find someone. I worked in a huge office full of women, and I had a lot of friends there, and I could almost always find somebody every day to go to the food court, but it is hard on the old wallet. That is definitely for sure. The next day, okay. Here's a really typical breakfast for me. It is just half of a bagel and some berries. On top of my bagel, what I do to lighten up cream cheese so much once in a while is I'll put a bit of yogurt in there. So if it's like a tablespoon of cream cheese, I'll also add a tablespoon of, obviously plain, you know this, right? Plain yogurt, not even because I find the cream cheese too fattening. I'm not worried about the calories. I just like to lighten up the texture, and I want a bit more of the sourness. I love a sort of a sour cream cheese, and I find sometimes Philadelphia cream cheese it's not as sour as I would like it to be. So I do that, and then I add everything but the bagel seasoning. So it's an everything bagel. Yeah, it is called everything but the bagel sesame seasoning. I love this stuff. Also from Trader Joe's. We don't have Trader Joe's here in Canada, so I gotta stock up when I'm in the US. This stuff tastes like the topping of an everything bagel, which is like a little bit of, I think, onion flakes, garlic powder, black and white sesame seeds, and a lot of salt and poppy seeds. The predominant flavor though is salt and onion. salt and onion flakes. That is a predominant flavor. So if you're not down with that, you're probably not gonna like this topping. And if you are, you know what I'm talking about. This stuff's amazing. And that's half of a sesame seed bagel that I'm eating there. And some berries, some mixed berries, just for a little bit of fiber. I find if I don't have a little bit of fiber, that's a real trick that I've learned in intuitive eating. You need to have a little bit of fiber at each meal. Even if you don't really feel like eating it, you should add it on top of the things that you're already, like, that's gentle nutrition. Add something nutritious to what you're eating. And so I find with that little bit of fiber, a little bit of protein, fat, that will take me through to the next meal. But my breakfast and my lunch are quite close together, so I don't have to worry too much. I don't go too heavy for the protein on breakfast very often. Sometimes I do. Typically I don't though. Okay, so the next meal, I decided to make a rice bowl for me and Killian because we're both home eating lunch this day. I made 4 pieces of bacon to split between the 2 of us. I made some rice, just like jasmine rice, steamed it in my Instant Pot. I made this nice little sauce that I use. It's just a blend of equal parts soy sauce and brown sugar, and I just microwave that for like maybe 20 seconds and I stir it. And it's almost like a teriyaki, but with no thickening agent. And I'll just drizzle this. Sometimes I drizzle this over rice just to make it extra tasty, or I'll just drizzle it over vegetables that are otherwise kind of ugh. And I just made a whole bunch of vegetables as well. I made some mushroom, carrot, and onion, which are vegetables my kid will actually eat. He doesn't go for all vegetables. He can be kind of picky that way. Like the really great, like rapini and stuff, he's like not that into it. Broccoli, he'll eat it, but not really. But I know he'll eat carrots and mushrooms and onions, so I make that when I can. And yeah, I put a bit of scrambled egg on the side so that just up the protein content, right? A tiny little bit of sriracha sauce. Of course, love that little spicy kick, more for Killian and less for me. This was yesterday's meal. Was like super satisfying lunch, and this kept me going almost all the way. At 4 o'clock though, I got mega hungry, so I gave myself a little treat. I had some apple, and I had a few cookies, a few of these sort of black and white Italian cookies that are great for like dunking in a tea. I was just like dunking these in a tea, and then I had the apple for that little bit of vitamin C and fiber. And was it filling? No, this was not filling at all, but it was just like a nice little treat. You know, I really enjoyed it. Had it, and I knew that I was going to be eating about about an hour and 45 minutes after I had this. I sat down for dinner. So let's talk about dinner. Dinner, I just had some pork tenderloin. Again, I'm not paying any attention to fat, protein mix, like exact macronutrients or anything like that. What I'm just going for here, and what I try and go for, is just like gentle nutrition. Half a plate of vegetables because they're good for me and I do enjoy them. I've got a Greek style potato here that I made by, how did I make this now? I parboiled the potatoes a bit and I added them to a mix of lemon juice and a bit of olive oil and some fresh pressed garlic. Mix that up, mix them into the potatoes, and just roasted them. This is like, obviously I must have wanted them still from yesterday's meal because they're very similar to the Jimmy the Greek style potatoes. So I just roasted these off, and I am eating here the better part of a potato, and it's half a potato, and 2 pieces of pork tenderloin, which just looks like any kind of meat, but this is a pork tenderloin that I just put some seasoning on, and I just did that in a skillet with a bit of wine, and I just quickly cooked that up. So that was my dinner, and I was not done there. I will say I was not hungry after that. I probably could have gone to bed with that food in my stomach and I would have been fine. But I decided I didn't go to the gym as early as I wanted to. I just was in the mood to make a cake. So I did make the cake, and then I went to the gym. So thumbs up for me for getting in that exercise. I made this beautiful apple cake. Oh my gosh, it's so good. If you guys want the recipe, let me know in the comments. I love this apple cake. I'm so happy with this recipe. Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's so good. What you do is you just need like 1 apple, which is super easy. You don't need butter in it. It's an oil based cake. And it's just basically like flour, sugar, cinnamon. Yeah, cinnamon, 1 apple diced in this beautiful cake. And then on top of the cake, you make like a buttery cinnamon sugar mixture, and then you dollop that over the top, and then you just put it in there, and oh, it smells gorgeous, and the cake is so tender and delicious. The apple has just, depending on the type of apple you use, it's not all mushy, it has just this tiny bit of tenderness. It is so good. So there's absolutely, it smells amazing, smells up the whole house with a beautiful cinnamon scent, and there was just no way I was passing that up when it was hot out of the oven. So I cut myself a piece, I ate it, and I was just happy for the rest. I was just happy for the rest of the night. It was so good. So yeah, so that really represents 2 days of eating for me. 2 very typical days, you know, a first day there where sort of out of my routine, went shopping, was doing Christmas shopping, got myself nice and full, and then was able to stretch that out until dinner. And then even dinner got me quite full. And then the next day, a much more typical, totally at home day. I do work from home, and so where I had, you know, just a small breakfast, and I had a nice rice bowl, which is a very typical lunch for me. And then I had a sort of more typical dinner, also with meat. And so just about a word about meat eating, I try to only have one meal a day. For my lunch bowl, I only had like two only. I mean, I had 2 pieces of bacon, and I only made 4 pieces. That way we wouldn't just go crazy on the bacon. And I also just made some egg to make sure it was more of a filling meal. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm always trying to hit those nutrients of like protein in every meal to help me stay satisfied, and fiber, that helps a lot too, I find. And just not depriving myself, because that just bounces back and always comes to get me, So trying not to do that. And I try and eat meat only 1 time a day, but sometimes I make allowances and I do have it 2 times a day. That's life, just roll with it. I don't feel bad about it. I just move on to the next day. And yeah, things have been going okay, you know. The intuitive eating is a work in progress. It continues to be a work in progress, but I just wanted to show you how I eat, and yeah, and also just get some food stuff in there too, because I haven't done a food video in ages, and so that was lots of fun. So if you like this, thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye everybody.